In this demonstration, I'll be showing you the basics of the pen tool. The pen tool can be found over here in the second section, in the drawing section, and I'll just click on it now to select it. And you can see there are a subset. There's the add anchor point, delete anchor point, and the anchor point tool, which is basically a convert tool. But we'll go to the basic pen tool right now. Pen tool's been around a long time, but it's still probably the most powerful drawing tool that you'll have in your toolkit. It basically works by clicking to create lines and clicking and dragging to create curves. So let me demonstrate some of these and how to mix and match the two. To start with, I'll just click anywhere on the screen. And if I want to constrain my line, I would hold my shift key down, but I'm going to draw a horizontal line here and click it. And then I'll draw a vertical line, and you can see a preview showing me where that line will be. That's called the rubber band preview. And again, if I hold my shift key, it will constrain it. And I'm basically going to draw a box here. And then when I go to the first point, I will finish it off, and you can see the little circle in the icon, which means it's going to make what's called a closed path. And that will allow me to use fills and strokes. Right now it's got a white fill and a black stroke, as you can see down here. Let me click on that fill color and just add something a little more colorful to demonstrate. And there we have our basic box drawn with the pen tool, 4 clicks, and we joined it at the end to make what's called a closed path. Let me go back to my selection tool and highlight that, and I'll just move it over here for now. Actually, I'll just delete it with my delete key. And let's try the pen tool again, but we'll try to generate some curves. Now the curves are created again by clicking and dragging. And I'll just click here and drag once to demonstrate. And you can see what it does. It creates what's called the anchor point. And then these 2 dots on either end are called the handles. And ultimately they allow you to control the nature of the curve, as I'll demonstrate shortly. But for now, I'll just click and drag and just create sort of a random curved kidney shape here. And again, I can close that off by going over that first anchor point, and if I click it, it'll do what I can see, but I can also click and drag to kind of get a smoother curve going. And that's the basics of creating curves. Now obviously I would quite likely want to edit these curves, and I would do that using the direct select tool. And I could go in and select an anchor point, and then I can grab these handles, and let me zoom in on one of these handles here with my Command plus, and I can use my spacebar to drag around. So spacebar to drag, Command plus to zoom. And on my direct select tool now, I can grab these handles, and watch what happens. It sort of acts like a seesaw, if you will. They rotate around the axis, which is the handle, or rather the anchor point, and these are the handles. Now the direction affects the curve, but I can also shorten and lengthen the handle, and you can see what happens here. It gets more exaggerated and pronounced as I lengthen that line, and it gets closer to a straight line as I shorten it. And they do run independent of each other. Each side can be a different length. And I can also just simply grab the anchor point and move the whole anchor point. I can also grab the line. So there's a number of ways to manipulate this, although grabbing the line is probably not as accurate as working with handles and anchor points. Again, if I want to lessen the severity of that curve, I grab that handle and just bring it down there. This will not work with the select tool. I'll show you here. If I use the select tool and click on any point, it simply darkens all the anchor points, which means they're all selected, and it basically just allows me to move the thing around. So I'll deselect by clicking in an empty area, go back to my direct selection tool, and if I click anywhere on the line, it starts the process, and then I can click on the individual anchor points and make my changes and modifications like that. Let me zoom back out here a bit. And I'll delete that as well. I'll go back to my selection tool and just simply delete that. Now let me show you how to combine the two, straight lines with curved lines. So again, I'll go to my pen tool, and it's currently with a green fill and a black stroke. What I'm actually going to do right now is I'm going to make the fill empty because it tends to fill in between the points. Let me just show you before I do this. If I'm doing a zigzag, let's say, you see how that fills, and then if I click over here, it does kind of a weird sort of fill until I actually finish off and close the path. So I'm just going to delete that and show you how to make life a little easier for you perhaps by making the fill none. So I'll just click on this little box with the red line, and the fill is none and the stroke is black. This way, when I'm clicking around, it doesn't overlap and disorient me while I'm trying to draw. And that's particularly important if I'm actually tracing over an image. So I'm just going to delete this by double clicking the delete key. And we'll start with a couple of straight lines, and then I will bring in some curved lines. So clicking, clicking, clicking. I'll go on an angle here, clicking. Now if I want to create a curved line, the next line I click and drag. And if I want to continue with curves, I click and drag. Now you see that preview. If I wanted to create a straight line again, I wouldn't be able to do it simply by clicking. So the way to get out of this situation, basically to kill the curve on the second half, it would kill the second handle, is to click on that anchor point, and you see how that comes out now as a straight line. So I'm coming out from a curve and coming to what's called a corner point so that I can proceed with straight lines once again. Now if I want to come out of the straight line with a curve, I can do sort of the opposite, which is to click again on that anchor point and just drag out, and you can see I'm generating a handle which is going to dictate the direction and nature of the curve, as you can see here now with my rubber band preview. If I click and drag, I'm making curves. Again, if I want to come out of the curve, I click on the anchor point and it gives me a straight line. If I want to initiate a new curve from that straight line anchor point, I click on the anchor point once again, pull as far as I want in any direction to generate the curve. And then I can finally close this off right here. So again, clicking creates a straight line. Clicking and dragging creates a curved line. Let me just create a quick second one here. Coming out of a straight line, I can click and drag on the anchor point to generate the handle. And if I want to delete that second handle so that I come out with a straight corner, straight line, I can click on the anchor point, and that brings me back into the straight lines from the curves. So you can go from curve to straight line and back and forth, and as you can see here, you can mix and match. So with a bit of practice, this drawing tool is extremely powerful, and it should allow you to create any shape, whether it's geometric or organic, with extreme accuracy. Now, I would recommend zooming in when you need that finessing, if you will, especially again if you're tracing an image. Zooming in and then spacebar to move around, which gives you all that freedom, and then you can draw with extreme accuracy. And I tell you, when you zoom in, say at 1400%, and you zoom back out, it's so sharp. It's really it's a thing of beauty as far as illustration goes. And that's the very basics of using the pen tool. I'm going to show you one more trick though before I sign off. Let me just go over back. I'm going to go to the direct select tool. Here's a little trick I'm going to show you how you can modify on the fly versus waiting till you've drawn the thing and then coming back and editing. You can actually edit on the fly, and it really depends on what your last selection tool was picked. So I'm going to pick the direct selection tool because that does allow me to modify anchor points. And I'll go in with my pen tool, and I'll just do some curves, 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 and let me click on here and create some straight lines, straight lines, straight lines. So let's say I want to modify something that's currently created. I can hold down my command key, and you see how it converted it temporarily to the direct select tool. I can actually go in here and make some changes. I'm still holding down my command key the whole time I'm using this shortcut tool, and as soon as I release the command key, it's back to the pen tool and I can carry on as I was. Again, command key gives you the shortcut to the last selected selection tool, so you would probably want to select the direct select tool before clicking on your pen tool, as a little bit of advice. And again, you can see here I can affect the handles and the anchor points. And then when I let go of that command key, I'm back in drawing mode. I can just close off that path. And let's say in this case, I want to give that a different fill or a fill. I can select the fill and just go over and choose my colors. So that's the lowdown on the pen tool.